Welcome, friends, to another mystical and mind-expanding episode of the Seekers of the Eternal podcast. Today, we are venturing into a realm that bridges species, dissolves boundaries, and invites us to remember a truth that has been long forgotten. And in addition to being sources of wonder and providing love and companionship, animals can also be our teachers, our messengers, and in some cases, even our soul guides. Our guest on today's episode is Musica, a gifted psychic and medium who communicates directly with animals through mind-to-mind telepathy. It began with the San Pedro plant medicine ceremony in 2017, an experience that opened a doorway that he could never close. Since then, Nick has walked a path of the intuitive, sharpening his skills of clairvoyance and clairaudience, and opening to a world where cats, coyotes, dolphins, snakes, and even our beloved pets have profound things to say. A visit to a psychic fair with his wife sparked a calling during a reading when the medium told Nick, quote, "You're like a Dr. Dolittle. It's going to be easy for you." And through meditation practice, dedication, and a noble desire to help others, Nick has been in communion with animals of all kinds, relaying messages that are at times playful, sometimes profound, and always deeply personal. Some animals want to talk about their favorite snacks, while others have insights that are akin to ancient philosophers. But all of them, every single one, has something to share with us. So whether you've always felt a special bond with your pet, or you're just now awakening to the possibility that nature is speaking and always has been, this conversation, may it open your heart, stir your curiosity, and invite you into a deeper relationship with the more than human world. So welcome to the Seekers of the Eternal podcast, Musica. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. And I'm really excited to get to talk to you because this subject of animal communication, telepathy, has been something that became really fascinating to me. A friend of mine, Ashley, she turned me on to the telepathy tape some time ago. And I've been really enjoying that podcast. And there are a few episodes in there around animal communication. And when I heard that, it just got my heart just so excited. Something just about it just really resonated because I think all of us who have had pets over the years, we have intuitions around this. We have this understanding that maybe there's more going on here. There's so many clues out there. So now to hear someone who has had this skill to be kind of activated within them, you kind of got in touch with me right at the peak of my interest in this. So it was a nice synchronicity. So I was very raring to get you on the podcast. And then you're also from Encinitas, California, right?
Very close, Carlsbad. I'm just right over the border there. But yeah. So Swami. So I mean, that's the surf spot. But Self Realization Center is right there. Yeah.
Yeah, my guru is Yogananda, and and Yogananda wrote the autobiography of a yogi, kind of just down the street from you. And yeah, I love that that surf spot there, Yogi's Swami's Beach, and that meditation garden up there. If
Gorgeous.
people haven't been there, oh, I almost fell off the side of that thing. It was just so beautiful and powerful. I was like, wow, this is just such a beautiful place. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving in with you on this. And I'd love to start your story here at the time where you met with a psychic medium and
Yeah.
you got that activation, that this was something that maybe come very easy for you. So yeah, let's start there with your story and tell the listeners a bit how that came on for you.
Yeah. For sure, and I've never heard it back to me as an activation. So thank you for that. And she has referred to what she does as Adelita as I give people activations, but I never really thought about it that way for whatever reason.
Hmm.
So this was a few years ago. My wife and I go to this psychic fair in Carlsbad where we live, and we walk around the floor once, and we don't really see anyone that we want to spend time with. And then we approach the floor from the opposite direction, and right in front of us, there's a sign that says psychic medium, medium ad litem. And I looked at my wife and I said, what do you think? And my wife says, that sounds great, but why don't you go first? And I really didn't, I didn't really believe in mediumship at that point. It just wasn't an experience I had. It felt a little far fetched. And so I thought I was being like supportive husband. I thought that she would be good for Julieta. And I was just going to spend my 15 minutes, and I was really looking forward to hearing what happened to Julieta's session. Right. And then things got moving. I sat down with her. She starts the session by drawing this heart, and she says, this is either a former romantic relationship or it's an animal. It's an animal. And she says, you did too much. And, like, it was super emotional because she was talking about my little white cat. My little white cat came through. He was 22 when he passed. This was 20-ish years ago. And the last 2 years of his life, we were going back and forth to the vet to check on all the things, the food, hydration, blood work. There's no problem to solve at that point. He's 20, 21, right? But we're looking to address the symptoms of old age for a cat. Like how do we make it better for him, right? So you did too much was a pretty darn good summary. And so now I'm catching up in the session of going, oh shit, I'm having a conversation with my dead cat through this woman. Like there's a radical shift in reality that is happening in real time. But she continues to do her thing, right? Your job is to continue to deliver the information, and she's doing that. And she says, they're now showing me Dr. Doolittle to show me that you can talk to animals. It's going to be easy for you. And that hit 100% truthful. I couldn't tell you why. There's really no reason up to that point to say, let me tell you why I feel that's true, other than I feel that's true. Like there just wasn't any. And as a matter of fact, leading up to that was, the September before, a few months before, we were out with a friend for dinner, and she was talking about this health center she had in Colorado. And she mentioned that she had an animal communicator come in to talk to the dogs. The dog was a lunatic about bread, just loved bread. And I was like, what do you mean an animal communicator? What does that even mean? I mean, this was like 5 months prior. And she told me, and I was like, that's fascinating. So it's like a psychic for animals. I'm like, really? That's a thing? I had no idea it was a thing. No clue. And so I bought a book, and I was just obsessing about this book. Obsessing about it. Just loved all the stories. And then I kept on buying more because I just loved the stories in there. And then, and then this event comes, and I'm like, this is the things that happen, right? The things that lead up to an event or whatever, you said it earlier, synchronicities, right? You could look at things as synchronicities, or you could look at them as coincidences. There's two different paths to that thinking. And you can coincidence your face off all day long, but once you see the synchronicities of it, now you have breadcrumbs to follow, right? So that's what happened. And so she says what she said, and I go home and I do a little meditation that I typically do with my cat, or that I typically do, and I figured I would find my cat, my living cat Chucky, because if it's going to be easy, I'm just going to be able to do it, right? That's that's what I was thinking, and so I do the meditation, and I see this big bright light come in. It's the type of light you would associate like higher level beings, spirit guides or angels or something. And I go, absolutely not. Like, not my cat. He poops in a box sometimes on the floor. Like this is not happening. And so I call her up, and I say, happening easy. You said it would be easy. This isn't even happening. Right. And she says, well, you're looking for information to show up in a very specific way. And that's not how this works. You get to be the open channel. What you get is what you get. Okay. I mean, it sounds simple enough, right? After I overly complicated it. And so I figured I'd give it a second shot. And so I buy more animal communication books, and I get a couple sessions with animal communicators set up, because I don't, as much as I'm like, this is going to be a thing, I have no idea what it even looks like. No clue. And so I get a couple sessions set up. And right before going to one of the sessions, which was just like this on Zoom, I get it from the dining room table, and I get this quick flash of a scene from Return of the Jedi, one of the ending scenes where they have the ghosts of Obi-Wan and Yoda. And I know that I'm being shown a student-teacher relationship. and I know it's coming from Chucky, right? But that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is he's the teacher and I'm the student in the scenario, which meant that big bright light. That was the introduction. And I completely blew it off. I completely blew it off.
Mm.
And so, that started to open things up, and it opened up for me, just, odd things, the dog at Home Depot, just feeling a little energetic connection, having a conversation with a dolphin in Mexico. And then, and then I started to give readings for other folks. I wasn't sure if I could do it, how many I can do, what would happen. I had no idea. And, and I went on to Nextdoor, which is sort of like, it's like Facebook, but instead of friends, it's, your immediate geography. And I put a post up there. Hi, my name is, and this is what I do. Click here for free 15 minutes. And it was funny. It was funny. And this was like, like the time where like there was, Biden and Trump, everyone had an opinion. Everyone still has an opinion. Um, but you would see, someone say something about one of those folks, and you would just get both sides just like hammering. This guy's awesome. This guy sucks. Like it doesn't matter who we're talking about, but that would be the dynamic, right? Just polarization. And so I started to see that like, this is amazing. What is this? This is fantastic. This isn't real, right? And so now I'm seeing a thing that I created, which I never did before. And just seeing it all play out. And at the same time, I have this Google spreadsheet open because I asked people to submit very basic information: first name, last name, name of animal, age of animal, like stuff like that. No big deal. And so I'm seeing this conversation play out, and I'm seeing the spreadsheet, and the first row fills up with a woman who wants a reading. And I felt her come through, and I was like, this is going to work. I know it is. And so I ended up talking to her animal on like a Wednesday, and then I talked to her. I debriefed with her on Friday. That's my typical rhythm: animal day 1, human day 2. And at the end of the session, she says, "So, my former animal communicator passed. Would you be okay if me and my friends, if I sent you referrals?" And I said, "No, I don't mind that at all." Right. So the first one out of the gate, can I do it, was what I was looking for from it. And so the response was an overwhelming yes. Yeah.
Mm. It's really cool that you followed those clues and you followed and honored what was coming through by practicing it. And that initial, I know what you mean about, when you hear something far out, but it just feels so natural in your heart
Yeah.
that you're just like, nobody's ever even talked to me about this, but somehow this thing that I didn't even know was possible now feels like so, I really feel like this could be a real possibility. That's a
Yeah.
really interesting thing that, and for people listening, that could happen to you at any moment. You never know when your
No
whole
clue.
paradigm is going to shift and change. So being open to those kind of things, and that wasn't even something that you were doing it kind of as a favor for your wife, and not really even thinking that this day was for you. So it really could come
Yeah.
at any moment. And I love how you honored that by getting some experience yourself, feeling this coming through, and let's just put that out, see what comes back. And it really seemed like you're getting those confirmations one after another that this is something that maybe I could continue sharing with the world. And is this now something that you do regularly? You offer these services, so if people are
I do.
interested in working with you, they can reach out.
Yeah. And so there's two versions that I do. One is, I'll sit down with well, I won't sit down. I will, I will spend time remotely with your animal, because people go, do you need to see the animal? Does he need to be there? Do you need to, like, how does it work?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, really what I need is intention. I need your intention for me to connect to your animal. And once that's established, there's a connection that happens, right? It's almost like, when you put two cell phones together, you're like, oh, you want my contact information? Here you go. You got it now, right? Magic. So it's that intention of the connection. And so I don't need to ever see the animal in person or even remotely. I do ask people for pictures, but then I will take very basic information, which again is like the person's first name, last name, their email address, because, like, let's make sure you're getting the right information, the name of the pet, the type of pet, age of the pet, and then 3 questions and pictures. pretty much all the information I ask for. Um, and then I will sit down, I will connect with the animal, and I take notes. I sit here, I'll take notes on the computer, and just whatever I hear, see, whatever it is, I just keep on taking notes. I don't know what it means. And sometimes it's very strange things. So it doesn't make any sense at the moment. And and then I will debrief with the human, right? So that's version one of what I do in this realm of things. And number two is, once you start saying, uh, I psychically talk to animals, people start to share things with you. People start to say, I had this weird thing happen to me. I want to tell you about it, right? So you become the guy that people come to with those weird things they sort of keep in the background, right? And so I've had people share some wonderful things with me. I've had the equivalent of we'll call her a furniture psychic. She rehabs furniture, and she said, I got to tell you something. I get a tap on the shoulder. I hear a voice that says, go down this alley. And every time I hear the voice, there's furniture I find, and I rehab it. Right. And then I put my hand on the furniture, I take it out of the dumpster, whatever it is. And I feel the stories. I get the stories from the furniture. Right. So like, she has that connection. Another young lady said, I've never told anyone this, but I feel like it's okay to tell you this. I went to Egypt, whatever it was, 5 years ago. And because I had this nudge about past lives, right? So people will come to me and share these things. And so out of that, I've started to put together training material about the things that have helped me open up, so that, and I don't make any guarantees if you're going to talk to animals. I have no idea. Like, I have no idea where your path's going to be. Never mind where mine was supposed to be, right? Like, I'm here now. But the idea is that opening, right? To create that opening, and to create um, habits and process, because you can do this. Everyone can do this, some version of this for themselves. How far it goes and what it looks like, no clue. But if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to do something like this is certainly a way to do it, right? There wasn't like anything like this 30 years ago. There was a weird section at the Barnes and Nobles or Borders store that had a mix of uh, Edgar Casey books and self-help books, and the Black Bible, right? Like that was sort of what you found. That was the most you can get at the time. Maybe you found a good psychic, but today there's a bunch of resources that you can find that are super helpful to help you open up. And so I offer that to
Mm.
people as well.
Yeah, this time that we're in, where we're all connecting through the internet around the world and making safe places to talk about these things, and the more that you hear other people talk about it, it turns it on for you and your own mind,
Totally.
and have this environment where you and I can get together. I got an interest in this. Now I'm talking to you. It's getting more real for me because I'm talking to somebody who has actually experienced these things. And I think to some degree, all of us have experienced these kind of things, but maybe we didn't know what we were looking for something else, or we're calling it coincidences. And we are really just, you need to, because I'm sure when probably every medium has a different way of receiving information, or maybe every animal that you connect with has a different way of communicating. So I imagine being open to what is coming through is really a valuable aspect of this.
Totally. Yeah. So, right. So I talked about Adelita and how she's like, you're expecting information to show up in a specific way. That's not how this works. Right. And she was completely right. And so the, when this first started to open up for me, um, we went to Mexico, we went to Cabo, and we were like kids in the candy store, right? This was after COVID, and we didn't go anywhere, for fun. Didn't get on a plane for fun, and then we finally do. We go to Cabo, and we're doing all the touristy things, and we had the opportunity to swim with dolphins in a big tank like SeaWorld, right? Which I've never liked seeing animals in cages. It always made me feel uncomfortable. Even like going to a Petco or whatever store, and the cats and dogs are in these cages for purpose, right? To go to a home. Like, this still doesn't feel good, even though I see the purpose. So so the idea of swimming with dolphin in essentially a cage, a pool like SeaWorld, didn't feel good to me. And eventually we decided we want to go and have this experience. And our little group was a total of 6 people, including us, plus the trainer, plus the dolphin. And there was during this time, very much like SeaWorld, there's a deeper pool, and then there's the shallow part of it, like a couple inches of water, whatever it is. And the trainer's at the head of the dolphin, and on either side of the dolphin, there's 1, 2, 3 people, 1, 2, 3 people, and I'm on the right hand side of Liz the dolphin, on the back by her tail. And I thought, well, let me see if Liz is game to chat, right? Let me see. And so I find her, and I get this overwhelming feeling of, so there's an energetic shift around the finding. There's this shift that happens. It's almost like if you were to, maybe an easy way to explain it is like if you were standing outside and the wind shifts, right? Like it's blowing in this direction now, all of a sudden it's blowing in that direction. You go, oh, something changed. And then you go, oh, the wind changed, right? So it feels a little bit like that. And so, the wind changes, so to speak. And I feel her show up, and I get this very this heavy feeling of sadness. It's sadness, right? And my narrative kicks in, right? My guilt kicks in of, of course you live in a cage, and like that whole thing is showing up, which is wrong. That's not the openness. That's my narrative. That is not her narrative, right? So recognizing what that is, and I'm essentially closing off the communication, filling it in with my story. I exited my story. Like, that's not what's happening here. Let's get back in touch with Liz. And so I asked why. And she said, family. That's all she said. One word, family. And so afterwards, I told my wife, I need to validate the information that I got here. And so I go to the trainers and I go, we had such a great time with Liz. I'm just really curious of her background. Does she have family here? Mom, dad, siblings? Or, what's going on? How does it work? And they said, well, dad's off the planet. And so looking for that energetic exchange of like what it could be, I'm like, that's there's nothing to it. There's no feel to that. So that's not it. So I asked, well, what about mom, siblings? Oh yeah, mom is here. Oh, okay. And she has a new baby. So that's Liz's sister. Okay. Well, where are they? Well, do you see the pool over there? Which, the one that's separated by the concrete wall? Uh-huh. That's the one. Why are they over there? Well, because when mom had the new baby, Liz still wanted attention from mom, which made it difficult for mom to nurse the baby. Well, how old was Liz? She was 2. Well, when was that? That was 3 years ago. So let me get this straight. So when Liz was 2, she still wanted attention from her mother. And the solution to this quote unquote problem was to separate this little dolphin, 2-year-old dolphin, from her mother and put her mother and her sibling in the adjacent pool. And she's never seen them before, but since then, but she knows they're there. They're right there, right? It's like sharing a wall with your parents or a loved one. And you they're there, but you can never see them again, right? Like you can't walk out your door into their place. It just doesn't work. But they're there. That's got to be painful. So family and sad, yeah. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. But I would have never gotten there had I gone, yeah, of course, you live in a tank, you live in a cage. That's right. And walked out frustrated with myself, sad for all the dolphins, right? But that just wasn't the case. Just wasn't it. It was something very different.
Yeah, that really brings a lot of hope for being able to help animals who are maybe showing signs of difficulties, showing signs of distress, where it makes me really want to see a world where this is so normalized, where if you're having issues with an animal, maybe you hire somebody like you that comes and can help to alleviate issues. I'd love to hear any stories that you have around maybe a client that maybe had a pet that was acting out, or a way that maybe that they came through that you helped them in a situation.
Yeah, yeah. So one of my favorites is, and it was early on, this one, and this is sort of turned into like a normal type of rhythm for me, right? People will show up because uh, they have a challenge with their animal. The animal's, maybe being a little aggressive with a human or another animal, or there's some other behavioral issue. So people come to me and they're like, "What's going on with my dog, my cat? What's happening?" And And I will get information from the animal about the animal. And what quickly shows up for many people, the majority of people, is I'm now talking to them about what's going on in their world. All right, so here's how that shows up for at least one client: is she had a little chihuahua that was biting people, like diving at people's ankles when she would have guests coming over. She's like, I can't do this. Can you please tell my dog to stop biting people? Now, these are little sentient beings, right? Everything out there, non-human, little sentient being, right? So you don't get to tell anyone what to do, right? Training is part of, behavioral. We're all trained, right? We're all conditioned in some way. So that's that conversation. But you can't make someone do a thing if they don't want to do a thing, and that includes animals. But I said, okay, I'll have the conversation. My promise is I'll have the conversation, and I promise ask the questions. And sometimes animals want to answer all the questions, and sometimes they're like, we're going to talk about these things. And that was the case with this little chihuahua. I tune into little chihuahua. I find the dog, and the dog says, you need to ask her about her job. I said, why am I asking her about her job? Well, because that's what has to change. Okay. So I get on the line with this young lady, and she shows up, uh, angry, not happy, whatever it is, whatever quality was there was not happy. And I'm thinking, oh man, like this is going to go over like a fart in church, right? Like this is not going to be good. No one's going to feel good coming out of this one. And and she says, "Did you talk to my dog? Mm-hmm. Did you tell him to stop biting people? Mm-mm. What'd you guys talk about? What do you do for a living? I'm unemployed," she says. "You're not unemployed. What do you do to make work, to make money?" I'm a private driver. Ubers and limousines is what I do. Okay. Well, how's that working out for you? And she says, well, I have spinal issues. Driving around for about an hour or two, my back is all banged up. My doctor tells me that I shouldn't even be driving, shouldn't have that job because it irritates that much. Okay. I tell her what the dog said. That's what has to, your job has to change, right? It's clearly misalignment with how she's spending her time, right? It's clear misalignment. And as we're talking, I get this quick flash of roses, and I ask her, what do you do with roses? And she says, well, I paint roses on vases and then I give them away. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on here. Your dog gives two pieces of information to work with to have this conversation. And one piece is this driving piece, right? The job has to change because that's causing you physical pain, and it's bringing you down, like to the point of emotionally angry, frustrated, whatever it was, whatever quality that is. And the second one is this uplift, right? This giving things away that creates joy and happiness for folks, right? So I don't know if the career path is on that, but certainly less of the first one and more of the second one is what we're talking about. And now, and so now once people have the information, like it's out of my hands, right? It's sort of like a little paper boat you send down the river type of thing, right? Like it has a life of its own, and they get to choose what they will or will not want to do with this. But just like when I went to Adelita and she's like, "You're going to talk to animals," and like I could have been like, whatever, not sure, that's a thing, and not do it. So people have a choice. It's a choice point, right then and there for folks. And but that is a typical type of thing that shows up. I had another young lady who showed up and she wanted to know, if I get a new couch. This was super cool. If I get a new couch, will my cat pee on it? Will it destroy this couch like the prior couch? And she was in Australia. So for folks who are like, I don't know, can you talk to me? Wherever I am. She was in Australia. And, and, day one, I talked to the animal. Day two, I debrief with the human. And I'm just writing the things down, and I write, table, comma, glass. It was part of one thing. And I said, we got to talk about the glass table. What's going on? She says, I broke up with a boyfriend about a year ago. Got rid of everything that we had together. The one thing I've kept, one thing, and we purchased it together, was this glass table. I've been meaning to get rid of it. I said, okay. I can't guarantee that the cat's going to not destroy a new couch. But I highly suggest getting rid of that glass table before you do, because like we need to get all the old things out before you get this new couch. And I said, I'm curious, like, who used the couch? Was it you and him sitting on it, you and him and the cat? No, he sat on it all the time, spread out on it all the time by himself. Oh, well, that, I mean, if you were the cat and you saw a different, or not a different, a dysfunctional relationship with your human, and you weren't happy about it, maybe one way you would express your distaste for the situation, your dislike of the situation, would be to ruin the thing that this person spent a lot of time on, right? So, I mean, they use all they don't have mouths, they don't have language like we do, but that doesn't mean they're not communicating with everything they got, because they are. So, yeah,
Mm.
get the new couch. Also, get rid of that table.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting how that comes through. And it's funny with those two examples that the problem that you thought you had with your animal is actually a problem you had with yourself and
Totally.
your energy. They're picking up on that, and that's
That's
why
right.
they're acting out. Is that something that seems to be the case a lot of times? Is
Oh my
the
goodness. Yeah.
animal's
Yeah.
fine? It's you that needs to, that needs to
Totally.
relax and learn how to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, we are walking around naked, from their perspective. They've never said this. This is my interpretation. Like we are not hiding anything from them, right? It's just so obvious and blatant. It's like when you go into a room and you're like, oh, the vibe in here is off, right? Like when you, and we sort of say that kiddingly, joking wise, right? I'm overly sensitive, whatever it is. But when you can see, when they can just read us, as clear as day, like a book, and be like, what you say is not what you mean, right? It's just so obvious to them. This feeling, this thing is not serving you, is so obvious to them, right? And now I feel compelled as the little critter to do something about. It's fantastic. There's a book called Kinship with All Life. I think it was written in 1954. It's about a Hollywood dog, Strongheart, this German Shepherd. He gets dropped off on a writer's doorstep, basically. To the owners say, we got to go to New York. He lives in LA. We got to go to New York and do this Broadway show. Can you watch our dog for a, a couple months? How long? Well, we don't know. We got to do the show. Okay. And there's a turning point in the book where he's at his typewriter, right? He lives in LA, and he's looking out the window and he's thinking, do I work or do I hike? Do I work or do I hike? It's a beautiful day in LA. And he's just thinking this. And he goes, okay, I'm going to go for a hike. And the dog rips in with hiking shoe number one, hiking shoe number two, the belt, like all the things. He's like, what the hell is going on here? Right. He's like, I didn't even say the word. I didn't say walk or whatever. I just thought hike. And the dog is just ripping in here with all day. Like, we're going for a hike. Right. And so now game on with this dog, and the adventure of the dog teaching this human things. And in the book, like, everyone wants to know about this dog, right? The more he talks about it, the more people are like, I want to meet the dog. He brings the dog to a friend's office. His friend is a lawyer, and there's a couple lawyers in the office, and the dog lunges at one of the lawyers out of nowhere, not happy with this lawyer. And they're like, what the hell's wrong with this dog? Turns out the lawyer was embezzling money, right? Like, how he presented wasn't the match, wasn't who he was, right? And there's a couple instances in this book where the dog acts, quote unquote, acts out, but in the reality is the acting out was on someone that was not who they showed up to be. They pretended to be something that they weren't, and so there was this clear mismatch, and the dog was just communicating what it was.
That's when you were telling the story about the dog that knew about the hike. It immediately brought to mind all the time. My dog, a little pit bull, he just passed away a few months ago, but I was just recalling the moments in my life. As soon as I, in my mind, decide I'm going to take a little Oni on a walk, he already knows, like always. He already know. And my wife and I, it's always. I'm sure a lot of people listening have that same experience. As soon as in your mind you decide you're going to go on a walk, your dog is sitting there ready to go, looking at the leash or whatever it is. It really. I think hearing you talk about these things and this being a fact for you in your life and all the things that you've been able to just help people with over time, all those little things that we maybe just saw as like, oh, that's strange, or that's interesting. How did they do it? Maybe, oh, then you start to rationalize, oh, they know what shoes I put on when I go for a walk or whatever it is. But I mean, over and over, you could see, like, say, my wife is going to be coming home, and minutes before she arrives in the driveway, the dog's at the window waiting. All of
Yeah.
these little things that you can't explain are happening. So I feel like now that, we're talking about this, and if you're hearing this, you can really open your mind to a whole new level. And even to go further, I mean, you were talking about your cat being the master in the student relationship here, where perhaps some souls incarnate as animals to help us. Maybe you
Hmm.
needed a spirit guide to help
Hmm.
you to help other people. And then this goes so deep into the rabbit hole around, I used to think in my mind, okay, there are this conversation and thinking about talking to you sent me on a whole. It's opened up a lot of really amazing things for me in my mind. And in the path of evolution of a soul, you come through the animal kingdom, as they say, into becoming a human, and then having the ability to go beyond instincts into a world where you can make your own decisions, you have free will. But there are stories. As I was doing some research around stories of great masters or awakened beings that have on purpose come back in forms of animals. And there are many mythologies and stories around the world of this being the case. So I wanted to just talk about a few of these here. I'll just kind of hint at a few of these traditions, because that is, and so that is just something that's just got my mind going. Like, you could have your guru coming to you as a cat. And I know a friend of mine was telling me that it was like, my cat is my guru. He came to me off the street. And then from then on, speaks to me, gives me information, guides me on my journey, has helped, taught me to meditate, all of this kind of stuff. And that could be the case. So I just wanted to read a few instances from historical accounts. I know Yogananda, in Autobiography of a Yogi, he talked a lot about telepathy, telepathic communication between humans and also between animals. He had a deer on the property in India that he was really fond of. And he even mentioned in that book, I wasn't sure if he mentioned that. So he said that that deer is of such a high consciousness
Hmm.
that it has been liberated from this is its last animal incarnation. And I wasn't sure if he meant its last time as an animal and then becoming a human, but it sounded like he was saying this is its last incarnation, where it has to come back to the earth, spontaneously. So that was the first one that I was kind of thinking of there. And then in Hindu tradition, Vishnu incarnated as a fish, as a tortoise, as a boar, Narasimha, the man lion. And in each case took on these forms for a divine purpose to restore dharma and protect the cosmos. And in Buddhism, the Jataka tales of Buddhism, there are past lives of the Buddha where he came as a wise deer, as a monkey,
Hmm.
as an elephant, and some others. And then in in the indigenous traditions and Native American and Aboriginal and shamanic traditions, that oftentimes the animals aren't seen as lesser beings, but as spirit beings with a lot
Yeah.
of divine wisdom, like the fox or the eagle or the jaguar, these teachers and guardians. And and then in Amazonian traditions, there's certain birds and also the jaguar believed to be
Hmm.
shape-shifted shamans that come. that show up for people and give guidance. And then Swami Kriyananda, who is a direct disciple of Yogananda and one of my main teachers at Ananda Village in California, he suggested that in rare cases, a human soul might choose to incarnate as an animal, not as a punishment, but for a karmic or compassionate mission. He also believes certain animals became individualized enough to reincarnate intentionally, often to remain near someone that they loved or to serve a purpose. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, as you have connected with a lot of animals. And, this is just, yeah, I before this week, I had been thinking on this level about animals. So it would be fun to hear your thoughts on those.
Yeah, I remember someone, and this was before the animals showed up, and we are talking about reincarnation, and I think I said something like, "I wouldn't mind coming back as a dog. Like they look like they have a ton of fun." And the response was like, "But then you're coming back as like a lower level being." And I was like, I just don't see it that way. I just like, why? Have you seen like a good life of a dog? I like help me explain how that's harder sometimes. And and I'm not saying it's perfect, right? There's they could be on the street. There could be some hard cases around that, but like the one that's being taken for a walk, that's fed the organic food 3 times a day, like that little critter's living a lower level. Come on, help me out here. So that was years ago, and then when Chucky showed up, and I went to a couple different animal communicators, they both these two said basically the same thing. Validating that teacher student relationship, and to go as so far as to say, so he took you on. And I like, it sounds like, it's so funny to say these things. Then I'm like, I've gotten removed from like the like, I used to feel a little uncomfortable saying it. So I'm like, I know how it could sound a little nutty, but he took me on as an assignment. He came here to help open you up. Um, that's his job. That's what part of what he's doing here. Oh, okay. And then the more that I spend time with him, the more I'm going, I mean, it's obvious. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yes, that is what's happening here. So to come back, or to be in one of those little bodies, to choose that little body for a purpose. I mean, isn't that the story, or that's one of the stories we tell ourselves of why we're in these bodies? We're here for a purpose, and this is how we're expressing that purpose. Just because we have thumbs and credit cards, that makes us better than them. I don't. That's hard to subscribe to. Right.
Yeah. It makes me think it's the soul that's evolving and can take incarnation in whatever form is most useful in
Right.
that lifetime, and maybe to
Right.
travel with another soul friend to help you out, because that form, maybe it's fun to think about, in the astral realm before we incarnate, and the different things that one of my teachers talked about this in between state with, like our karma could be like this giant department store with all of our karma, and we go around with a shopping cart. We say, I'll take that bit of karma. I'll take that bit of karma. I'll
Yeah.
take this big one because we're going to share that together with some friends. We go around, and because we have all of this karma to work out, and then we incarnate, and then we're going to work on these different things that we selected for each other. And, maybe also in that we're selecting, I'm going to take that body. I'm going to be born
Mm.
there. And this way that we're all with it, with each other. And man, it's so beautiful and mind expanding to just even suspend your disbelief and live life in this way. It just seems like it will improve your life. It'll make you look for God in everything and in everyone, and be able to be
Yeah.
receptive to things you might have missed.
I mean, it's a little. I mean, without getting into the details of the conversation, but like, let's just take climate change as a conversation, right? I believe in it. I don't believe in it. I don't, like, again, who cares? Who cares what it is? If the idea is a cleaner planet, like, isn't that seems important, right? Call it climate change or don't call it climate change. But like when you say climate change, it's about pollutants and things and, carbon and all that, creating a less clean planet. Well, maybe we should just be talking about a cleaner planet. Now we don't have a political horse in the race, right? And the outcome is a cleaner planet. That seems pretty good. From the animal perspective, like let's say this is all nutty. None of this makes any sense. None of this is true. Okay, let's just sit there for a second. What's the worst thing that's going to come out of this? More respect for the animal, more respect for all the life that's out there, right? Acknowledging something else that has a place on the planet just like we do. Like, sure. Don't believe me that my cat's a teacher. Don't believe me that a cactus is a teacher. Fine, great. But have respect for the animals, right? Like, there's a way bigger thing that's at play here. I just happen to have access to a sliver of it, but there's something way bigger. Um, and when people show up, even if I was thinking about this yesterday for some reason, it's like there's a lot of just bullshit out there, right? Like in any subject matter, and this one is not an exception, right? And like you hear people and you're like, I can't get beyond who you are. Like your words may actually be meaningful in some way. There may be truth to it. I don't know if it's your truth because you're not part of my people. There's an agenda there that I just can't get on board with. But like, let's just take your words for a second. And that may not be your truth, but it may be similar to someone else's truth, right? So just even taking the words and go, is there validity in those words in some way that you can grab onto them and make progress with it, right? Like that seems like cherry pick the things that could be true for the purpose of moving forward to create something better instead of staying in the arguments and saying climate change is real, it's not real, oh, whatever. Like cleaner planet. Can we have a cleaner planet, please? Because please tell me there's something wrong with that, right? Please tell me
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with treating things well. Come on, get out of those silly conversations.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that because those are words that were purposefully put in to divide us and to make us argue over these things. And we step
Right.
beyond that, and we realize that, yeah, that is just that's that. Yeah, it's there to slow us down, slow down our evolution, and we're limiting ourselves. I know if you believe in something, if that whole cliche around if you believe you can or you can't, you're correct.
So true.
I, I've been doing this meditation practice with the group that I lead each week, and
Mm.
this is around Yogananda taught about the ability that we all have to heal the grooves in our brain, neuroplasticity, neural pathways in our mind that carve over time, the grooves in our brain that come through all of our experiences, or those thoughts that we keep entertaining that are just digging these pathways in our brain, and we just can't get over these nagging thoughts or traumatic experiences or feelings of judging others that come through, and we want to overcome those. There's meditation techniques that you can use to harness the life force energy in your brain and shine that light on your brain and heal these grooves. And I've been learning for myself that if I believe that I can do that, if I believe that this is a reality, that energy heals, and that there is a higher self within me that wants me to be happy and free, and I do this, what's the harm? What's the harm in believing that I can? So I
Mm-hmm.
love getting together with a group of people and like, let's all just believe that we can do this. And it's a thing that was coming through is like, it's kind of the difference between giving somebody an apology, saying I'm sorry, and really meaning it, you know, or whether you didn't quite mean it and you say it. So if I mean it and I believe it and then I do it, it's so much more available than at like a than a just saying some words that aren't coming from the heart.
Totally. Totally. So in the spirit of no coincidences, right? So when I'm working with folks specifically around communicating with their animals, and so here's how that shows up in a reading. Sometimes is a young lady came to me and she said, my dog won't go outside at night to pee. Okay, walk me through it. Like what happens during the day? I call the dog over. I open up the door. Dog sits down. I tell the dog to go out. Dog goes outside, does his business, comes back in, close the door, done. What's different at night? Well, I'm in a nightgown. Okay. Um, call the dog over, open the door. Dog sits there and looks at me. Will not go outside. I don't understand. I said, well, how do you feel about going outside at night? Oh, it scares me. Okay, so let's work. Let's talk about this, right? So, if you want to communicate with your animal effectively, there's essentially three aspects. There's saying it, go outside, do your business. There's seeing it, you're looking outside, you're looking at the tree. But then there's feeling it, and you're not feeling it. So, what you're essentially saying is it's okay for you, it's not okay for me. That's a mismatch. That's that mismatch we have here, right? So, in the spirit of what you're talking about, right? And I use the, you know, so imagine someone kicked in your shins and they're, oh, sorry, you got in my way, right? Keep your apology, dude. I don't need it, right? Versus, I'm so sorry. I was distracted and I see that I just, towed your ankle. That's got to hurt. Sorry.
Yeah, you can
Very,
feel the difference in that when it's real
right,
or it's not. There's like,
right.
what is that real feeling behind it? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And so when we're talking about, like showing up for that meditation and believing and moving the needle, and it's really in the better direction, it's really easy to go, how am I going to do that? Turn on the news. We don't call them wars, but whatever, right? Conflict one, two, three. They're wars. There's bombs. There's shooting. Right? It's a war. Um, you know, there's they're almost up to one hand, one fistful of things that are going on today. It's really easy to look at that and go, how am I going to make an impact on that? Like I feel powerless. Yeah, it's easy to do that. So maybe don't do that. Like what is in your immediate universe that you can start to have a positive impact on? Where do you begin here? Because it's not the news. The news is going to feed you garbage all day long, right? And if you are meant to be there to have a positive impact there, you would be there with the opportunity for the positive impact there. So what is the opportunity here for the positive impact? And it doesn't mean that's going to be easy, but it means that you move forward with the intention of positive impact.
Yes, I love that. That is something that has come on for me, and I love talking about it and sharing it with other people and seeing other people begin to do this because we can connect with each other. No, like Yogananda has wonderful techniques for connecting with your friends psychically, filling yourself with joy, imagining your friend who's struggling, just see them smiling, say their name, send them light energy, beam that light energy, feel it yourself and give it to them. And we can do such great work in this world. I used to feel so alone and powerless and
Mm,
small. And when somebody tells you something tragic or story that they're going through, then you feel like there's nothing that you can really do to help them to get out of it. And that can make you more depressed. Now, I'm not afraid to hear about my friends' problems and the things they're going through because I know that I'm here to send them light in the same way that, we can connect with animals, we can connect with our friends. And I'm glad that you brought that up because in this world that can seem so scary and divisive and pitting all of us against each other. I think we all want the same thing. And we all want to have happiness and joy in our lives and to feel connected with one another. And when we see each other, whatever political side that you're on or no political side, when we see each other in the streets, often people are so much more friendly than you would think, and
mm-hmm,
we create these divisions for each other. But we can use these natural abilities that we have to send. Just an example for myself, like I have a friend who's just been struggling with this terrible, terrible, undiagnosed, can't figure out what's going wrong with him, and just one symptom after another, and it keeps moving around, and it's just sending pain to his body, and just one surgery after another, and they can't figure it out. And I've been praying for him for years and sending energy to him. And oftentimes, what you realize with prayer and sending energy to people is that sometimes God is still choosing to have them go through it because they're learning things. They're still learning things, you know. So, and I'm learning as I'm just continuing to do this practice, continuing to send energy. And over years of doing this, and my friend would tell me he can feel it and he appreciates it and he's got more energy
Mm.
from it. Well, one night he called me and he's like, I felt you come through so strong tonight, and I actually saw you standing in front of me. And he described the shirt that I was wearing, and I was like, yes. He's like, I saw you. Your hands were up like this. You were wearing this shirt with this graphic on it, and I was like, you're exactly right.
Awesome.
So those little things that come through and you're like, okay, this is real. I believe it. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to keep doing this because people are feeling it and it's making the world a better place. So who cares if I sound crazy?
Yeah, yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And those things, I mean, the phone call, right? That the phone call that we all sort of experience, right? That idea that you were thinking of someone, and then they're calling you next thing, or you're getting a text, or vice versa. Right? We've all had that experience. A lot of us have had that experience, or something very similar, and we just chalk it up to coincidence, right? It's just, or it's weird. And there's nothing you can do with coincidence and weird. Nothing. It just stays coincidence and stays weird. But when you start to see them as, and you call them little things, I mean, they're huge. Those are the connections, I think, right? And they build on each other. They're Legos, right? They just keep on building something wonderful. We have no idea what it's building into, but it just keeps on going, keeps on building something. And your reality shifts. At some point, you realize that, this path that we've been sold, and these narratives that we've been sold of get good grades, get a job, go to college, work for someone else, do all the things, retirement, gold watch. And that's sort of my parents' generation. But like, there's some version of that. There's always a version of that, right? It's less than that. And it's more of the intention of the next thing and building this thing. And there's a whole lot of trust there. There's a whole lot of trust, but there's this dance with the universe that's happening in that scenario. There's this openness to the right thing that we're weaving in and out of, and figuring out what the next right thing is and where do we go from here. And uh, sometimes it's structured, sometimes it's not structured, but I mean, it looks different than the other one. So people on that path look at this path and go, that looks batshit crazy. It looks nutty over there, right? And it's like, well, until you accept that those coincidences are not coincidences at all and are little blips of communication, it's going to continue to look nutty over there.
Yeah, yeah, these little things that seem little that could transform your entire paradigm shift of reality. Just, yeah, I hope that's what people really start to get out of this. Is it may not look like what you thought it was going to look like. It may look a lot different the way that these things come through. And as you remain open to it and you start to notice the nuance and the subtlety, that you could be
Yeah,
experiencing, I think, the highest thing that we're all reaching for, which is communion with the divine. It just may not have
totally,
come through in the way that you thought it was.
totally, totally. I mean, there's a she's long gone, but her name is Florence Scovel Shinn, and she talks. I don't even know if she uses the word manifestation, but she's talking about manifestation in her books. And there's an aspect of this limitation of things, like when you get hooked on something, right? So like, let's just think about $1 million. Like, I want to be a millionaire, and I don't even know if that's a lot of money anymore. But like, I want to be a millionaire, and that would be fantastic, right? Like, it feels rich. It feels like there's a lot there. And what you've just done is you sort of capped what it could be. You've set a ceiling for 1 million. Well, what if it was going to be a bazillion? What if you're not Amazon and you had that access to things? What would you do with that? How can you make things better, right? But because you have more options above 1 million, but A million is like me and my safety, and it feels good, right? So there's this aspect of getting attached to things where it could actually limit you, right? Versus expand what it could look like. And when we see things, so like that house on the hill is the one I want, and your realtor's coming to you with like all these great deals, you're like, no, no, that house on the hill. Like you've just passed up all those opportunities. You capped yourself, right? So I want it to look like this, and I did the same thing. Like it's going to show up just like this. I would have lost so many, or not experienced so many wonderfully odd things that have shown up because it didn't fit this mold. It just didn't fit it. So if it doesn't fit this mold, it's like looking through a like the little hole in your door, and that's everything that you want is right through that little hole, or so you described it as. That's what you wanted, but then you're blinding everything else out. Everything is just not an option at that point. So like just be open to all the things, and know that the right things show up for the right time, even if it feels terrible sometimes. Like your feelings are sort of almost not relevant many times. It's why is this thing showing up, and what happens from here, and what can I learn from it, and where do we go from here, versus oh man, this
Yes.
sucks, f this thing, that guy, this situation. No,
Yeah, I
those
agree
feelings aren't
with
relevant.
you. Yeah, I agree with you. I love that. It's almost like an early mistake that we all have to make. And then eventually as you continue practicing these manifestation techniques and tools, and then eventually it seems like everybody who's been on that path for a while, eventually you get to this state where some of my teachers like to say that you just ask, what's trying to happen here? And no agenda. What is trying to happen? What wants to happen?
Oh, that's a good
Ha-
one.
Yogananda had a prayer where he says, God, just make this a beautiful dream. I don't
Mm.
care what it is that you do, but just make it a beautiful dream, a beautiful story, a great movie that I'm playing in. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do this and that. I'm going to do things that I regret, but make it a beautiful dream all in all. And it's just so much, you open yourself up to the wonders of the world, and it becomes like so much more fascinating. Because if we think of this life like a multi-dimensional, multi-sensory 3D video game that we came here to play, we would want it to be like that. We would want it to bring
Yes.
surprise, and we would want it to bring us like cool plot twists
Yeah.
and stories. Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
cool. That's a
Mm.
great way to think about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing that was coming up when you were talking about the different pet owners who were feeling anxiety and their pet was acting out for different reasons.
Mm.
A parallel to that came into my mind for parents, specifically of likely autistic children in the family, where I know from some of the telepathy tapes that I was listening to that when the parents were having a lot of turmoil and struggle in their life, just like that woman who needed to find a different job or get rid of the furniture, she was, the parents could be experiencing this inner turmoil and agitation and anxiety, and they may, it may come out in angry words, or maybe not even at all. They might be doing a great job of hiding it inwardly, but very sensitive children, especially with autism, can feel that, and then maybe they're acting out in the same way that the dog or the cat would do to try to get your attention. But because they don't know how to communicate properly, they're, it's like, oh, we're struggling with our child. So maybe if you're listening to this and you're going through something like that as a parent, look at, maybe you don't even need Nick to tell you. It's like you just go into your mind, like, why am I so anxious? And is that coming through? And that is coming through to my child or my dog, or you could probably solve your problems right now if you just go inward. And why does my dog keep peeing on this couch? Well, think about it.
Yeah.
It sounds like you could probably solve it yourself.
There is some self reflection you can do. And in that case, with the little dog who was biting people, and the young lady who arguably needed a new job, and there was a mirroring behavior there. You're angry, I'm angry. I'm just showing you what I'm seeing. I'm showing, and it's almost like I'm wearing what you're wearing, so to speak. Um, And there's also the modeling behavior. Like my little boy cat Chucky, he's such a good player. He's 14. He wants to play every day. And so I don't have a great relationship with the computer. I'll grind way too long, right? So I need more play. So that's my lesson that he's giving me, among other things. Um, but it's harder. I think it's hard. You can do it, but I remember I went to a psychic. Oh, this was like when I was 18 or 19, and and remember him saying something like, you can play shrink with yourself. You can play psychologist with yourself to some degree. But then at some point, you got to like process that information. There's people out there who actually do this, right? They're good at it. It's not their first rodeo. They're not looking in a mirror all the time, right? So you can do it to a certain point. Um, but at some point, it may be beneficial to talk to someone, me or someone else. I don't like pick whoever. Like it's fine. Um, but part of the reason that we're here is to help each other, right? So like when we need help or when we can offer help, and it's and we don't force our agenda on someone, and we don't jump in and say, let me tell you what to do. But we're available for someone like that. I think that's a big part of it, of why we're here.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, to know when you want to call out for help. Yeah, it's so hard to see the issues in ourselves. We're so used to being around ourselves, and somebody else on the outside can so probably easily point to something that we didn't see at all. We didn't even realize. Yeah, that's
Totally.
so true. It, I, I was hearing that another service that you offer. You can even maybe someone who is missing a pet that's maybe passed away, then they're interested in connecting with a pet that is no longer with them to maybe provide some
Yeah.
comfort.
So funny. Yeah. So I didn't. So when Adelita said you're going to talk to animals, it's going to be easy for you, and I thought yes, and without without anything else beyond that, I never thought about critters that passed, especially someone who never subscribed to mediumship, right? Even though I'm getting all this information from a psychic medium, life is funny. What can you say? And so I was talking to a gentleman in a session, and I'm telling him what the cat showed me, and and he goes, "Well, that was a long time ago." And I go, "Well, how old's the cat?" And what like I'm having this problem with the math, and I was like, "I don't get it." He's like, "Oh no, the cat's been gone for like 10 years." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And that was the first time a past critter showed up for me. Um, and so yeah, so it really is. Sometimes there's a different feel to it. Sometimes they feel a little bit like almost like a birthday party. You see the balloons, on a mailbox, and they're sort of swaying in the wind. Sometimes they're a little. You really have to be like tracking them a little bit differently. Um, but sometimes not like they just show up with the same feel that another living creature has. It's super interesting, and but they do have things to say. I mean, just like your real life animal, um, just like the living critters do, they have something to say. And I mean, I was broken up when my cat passed, when Henry passed, and I was the guy. I think that was probably before the internet was actually a thing. But looking up like, do animals have souls, and like trying to find a real answer to all of that, and I never found anything really that helped me in any way until I started to talk to other people's past animals, which gave then me personal comfort in all of it. Like, oh, now I finally got my answer through someone else, right? So the service you give to like, it's so funny, right? Like the answer I've been looking for this entire time, like I got it because some random guy said yes, and I happened to talk to their cat that passed, and like all those years of was it a thing, and really wanting to know, like it all just sort of filled in. Even though I had a conversation with Henry through Adelita, like it wasn't my experience, right? Like I didn't actually have the conversation with him. I was the receiver of the information, but once I got the information, that gave me a whole different lens on what this is. Like my bubble just whoop, got a little bit bigger, right? My understanding got a little bit bigger, and so yeah, so living or deceased. if they want to talk, and I have not had, I want to make sure this is true. It's mostly true, and I'll give the exception. If there's an animal, if you want to talk to your animal and you want me to talk to your animal, that's going to happen. I haven't had anything where that has not happened. Um, and who knows? I mean, at some point, maybe someone doesn't want to talk to me. That sure. I've heard other people where that's the case. Um, for me, what I did discover where it doesn't happen is, and it happened twice before I figured it out. And so, like, I'm going into the readings with like no information. I'm like, oh god, what's going to happen here? But you like you show up, you got to do it, right? Like, what's going to happen? And I go in and I was like, I don't really have anything. Let's like, why are you here? And let's talk about that. And very quickly, I learned they really didn't have the intention for me to talk to their animal. It was really they were curious about how did it happen to me because these weird things were showing up for them, and that was the conversation they wanted. And it took me like two times walking into a reading where there was no information to share that I realized you just didn't have any intention for me to talk to your critter. It was about you and your curiosity, which is fair game. But that doesn't help me when you say, I want you to talk to my animal. Like, I'm like, nothing's going on here. Like, it's swing and a miss each and every time. Like, it just it's like it's, trying to start the car and like it's just not turning over. Um, so yeah, so past animals show up and they show up in different ways. I've had one animal that showed up and said, uh, last descent. It's like, oh, this may be the last time you hear from your animal. This is, I'm not the keeper of all the truths, so I'm just telling you what I heard. But like, it sounds like that could be what's happening here. So let's make the best use of our time. And then there's other folks. Like I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and the young lady just mentioned the name of the dog, and like, boop, like the dog just pops up. Like you can feel again that shift in the energy. Like the wind changes a little bit, and you're like, so the dog is available to you, right? Like it just seems like the dog is around and available. So they are when it is part of their whatever it is, their syllabus for doing the work. I don't know how else to describe it, but when you are still part of their syllabus and they leave the planet, there is still opportunity for access. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, when you were talking about the pet owner who wasn't making that connection with their pet but wanted something else, I was thinking maybe that is, I mean, you're describing that is a very valid, this is a component that's necessary, is it the owner's connection with the animal that you're tapping into to make that connection because they have such a deep bond.
Yes, and it's funny you use the word owner, and I or whatever that connection is, caretaker of, but the primary contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was on a podcast a while back, and it was funny. And then I don't do like I try not to like give information like right here, and even if I get it, I'm just like I don't know where it's going to go. I have no idea where it's going to go. And I've talked to people, and I will say whatever lollipop, and then they're in tears, and I'm like I had no idea what was going to happen, right? So like I want to be really sensitive about what we're talking about, and it's you and me. And if you want to put it out in the world, great. But like I want to sort of keep it guarded between you and I, and then you make a decision from there. And so this young lady on the podcast, she said, "So I have a question for, can you talk to my boyfriend's dog for me about me?" And I was like, I've never had that request. I have no idea. But as she's talking about it, similar to like the young lady at the conference when she mentioned the name of the dog, like boop, like the wind changes, right? And I was like, yeah, I can, yeah. And and then because of my own curiosity, I was like, where's the boyfriend? Like like this isn't how it typically works. And so I'm sort of looking for the boyfriend in all of this, and like I can't find him. And I was like, well, let's talk after. Let's finish this and let's talk after. And she's like, oh, okay, all right, because I didn't want to say something about the boyfriend. And so afterwards, I just I just said, so you have a better relationship with the dog than you do the boyfriend. And she just starts crying, like it's just very emotional. And she goes, everything was fine until like football season started. And now he's one on one with the TV, and like football just took over his life. Like it's just so yeah. What you said is I'm closer to the dog now than I am with the boyfriend, uh, and I don't think I can do that for for every football season that comes up. Okay, well here we are. Got it. So have the conversation, make a good decision for yourself. Whatever you need to do to get what you need. But that was the first time that someone else's animal sort of intervened in a communication. It was super cool, right? So they're looking, and I've had that for myself. Like I've had just strange things happen out in the world where they started the conversation with me, sort of out of nowhere, right? It's just so funny. It's just so you don't know. You have no idea what's going to happen sometimes, but you need to be open to whatever that thing is that we all are curious about, or if you're still listening, you're in the game in some way or another, right? You're on the path in one way or another. So if this is your jam, cool. If it's not, that's okay too as well. But there's all these. We have so many tools available, right? Animals happen to show up for me. I happen to do well with psychics, and now psychic medium apparently. And but there's Reiki, there's yoga, and there's Akashic records, and there's like you pick the thing that is interesting for you. Who cares if it's right? There's no right. There's interesting, and keep on going with it.
Yeah, that's excellent. That is it. And hearing all of the different examples, I think opens you up to get a feeling for it. You start to get a feeling for it. Oh, just keeping your mind open to the way it might come through. And for with my practice, I sit with my my images of the masters, and I have my altar there. And over time, you start to feel like, what does that guidance feel like? What is that coming through as? And realize that it's been there, this guiding force that's always been with us all along. Yeah, and maybe it's really fun to think about that opening up to the animal kingdom and nature. I have friends that communicate with trees and
Mm.
get guidance out in nature. I was thinking to maybe a last question here for you. When you're out in nature, do you find non-domesticated animals coming through, or is it maybe like, okay, so last night I was thinking about the difference between a domesticated, say a house cat or a dog that's with a family, as opposed to a wolf or a puma in the
Yeah,
forest,
yeah,
in the jungle. The difference maybe between a vibration of those animals. I mean, I guess it could span the gamut, as we talked. Great souls can come into any of them, but do they come to
yeah.
you out in nature as well?
They do, and there's a couple. I mean, I think the big thing. Just had a cat coming in. The big thing to remember is it's always from their perspective, right? So, and that's as a human, I'm looking at my little girl here, little ninja. Like you look at it from your perspective, right? But it's from her perspective. Like she's 6 inches off the ground or whatever it is, but you're like, I'm all, the perspective is different. So to always be aware of from their perspective is very, very helpful. Like Liz the dolphin from her perspective, right? It wasn't mine, it was hers. And she's not necessarily in the wild, but she's, I mean, sort of not in the wild in some ways. Um, I've had before all this happened. There's a place around here that a buddy of mine go hiking at, and for a long time, when I would see a snake trail, the that a rattlesnake would make in this, or a couple other snakes around here, but a snake would make in the dirt. The fresher the trail, this is super trippy. The more the energy, like I could see the energy just sort of like imploding on the trail. It was super cool. It was super cool. And I was like, I don't. He wasn't picking it up. That was for me. And years later, when things show up, it's, snakes are about evolution and shedding the skin and, right? And so take this off and now it's a fresh new thing. So that sort of makes sense in hindsight. A lot of things make sense in hindsight. It doesn't make any sense in the moment. Um, but I went back to Adelita for a couple counseling sessions, really, like, how do we do this? And what is this thing showing up? And like, you've been doing this longer than I have. And so like, I want to get your take on it. It's way easier to like work with a mentor with just about anything. Right. And so I went back to her for these things a couple times. And so when a past animal showed up, I went back to her and she was just like, animals. And I was like, oh, well, again, making it more complicated than it needs to be. Right. Um, and I remember it was probably in that session where I asked, because she said life force. And I said, well, how far does this, this non-human life force go? Or how far does this go? And she said, anything with a life force. Oh, well, that gets you thinking, right? And that fills in some blanks, right? Like there was a day, this again, before all these things opened up, but after the San Pedro, I was doing yoga on this little grassy knoll, uh, and we're ending the yoga, we're wrapping it up, and I'm just on my mat, looking down, and there's this one blade of grass that's just doing this, or it looked like it was doing this, and I'm like, that's funny, how the wind is just hitting that one blade of grass like that, right? Has to make sense. And I'm like, that sounds insane. Like, that's not how the wind works, even a little. And I realized I'm seeing the energy of this one little blade of grass. So like you can't want to see that, right? It's just how it showed up in the wild, right? So the blade of grass, the snake trail, the coyotes that came for a visit one morning at 4 a.m. Um, the crystals we brought back from Arizona, man, I was like high as a kite for about 3 days. It was hard to operate. It was hard to function. Like there was so much good. I mean, talk about the telepathy tapes, and that there's a kid who's just like the rocks, the rocks, and I'm like, yes, the rocks, absolutely the rocks. Um, Super cool, like super cool. So anything with a life force, that your house plants, there's a life force there. The Christmas tree, I kid you not, your Christmas tree, you get a Christmas tree cut, there's a life force there too. I'm pretty sure that's true. I had experiences with the Christmas trees. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it just opens up this whole world. This whole
The
world
whole
changes when
world.
you start to see it in that way. I'm an artist, and last night it was really fun after my
Oh,
meditation, thinking about coming to talk to you and studying around this topic, that I'm really wanting to connect with animal spirits as guidance for creating artwork. And the thought came in too around maybe providing some guided meditations and visualizations for opening your spirit up to eagle energy, to maybe
yeah.
even oak tree energy, to
Oh, totally.
opening tiger energy, whatever it is, and then allowing that to come through to provide perhaps visuals that could become artwork, music that could come through for an artist, sculptures or poetry or short stories that you could write, of tuning into animals to provide that feeling that could,
Yeah.
we all know about. So maybe going, I feel like maybe it's a good bridge, because a lot of people have struggled with talking about God or spirits, but we all love animals. So we
Yeah.
could connect with that overall animal spirit to guide us creatively is something that I think would be really fun to explore.
Super cool. Yeah. Super cool. So, um, like you could just look at the personality of the animal, right? The behavior of the animal, right? Like snakes, right? Shedding the skin, right? So like, what would that look like? How would that express itself? Shedding skin, or just the concept, in a sculpture or in on paint or whatever it is. And so like from a spirit animal perspective, there's always like this talk of like, buffalo and tiger and snake, like these, like formidable things that would sort of take our breath away in the wild, right? If we saw them. And, my wife got me this book a couple of years ago. I'm still flipping through it slowly. It's called Kingdom of Play by David Toomey. And in it, he's talking about this research on little piglets, controlled environment. And they're watching these little piglets run full speed. And then they belly flop. And then they get up again in full speed. They're going. And they're like, oh, that was weird. Mistake. What's going on there? Right. But then they start seeing the behavior over and over and over. And they're like, what the heck? What's going on here? Keep in mind, controlled environment, flat ground, right? And they realize that out in the wild, there is no controlled environment. There is no flat ground. There's divots, there's roots, there's sharp corners. So these little prey animals that are being chased, they're actually planning for the unexpected. They're planning to fail. And more importantly, they're planning to get up. Super cool, right? So art, yes, 100%. How would it be expressed? But also in business, right? In your next endeavor, like, do you think you're going to just put a business plan together? You're going to start building a website, start doing a thing, and unlimited amount of money. But when I say $1 million, you already covered that part. But thing that's going to do a cool thing. I mean, maybe if it happens that way, great. Chances are it's going to be hard in some spots. Chances are something you intended isn't going to work out. And so to be planning to get up after the fall is super important, right? And so what can you learn from the piglet? What can you learn from the other non-take your breath away animal? Because they all have something to teach us. We just have to be open to it, because they're not below us. The piglets aren't below us, right? No one's below us. We're in this together. You can learn from each other.
I love that. Yeah, there's so many things that we can take and learn and bring into our own personality, and the strengths that we can adopt from being in tune with the animals. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Nick. This has been really fun chatting with you about this. I'm going to put your contact in the show notes here. So if people want to get in touch with you, it would be so fun for you, people listening. If you're interested in this, get a reading, learn some things about yourself and about your animals. And there's no doubt it'll be something that will open your mind and maybe help you see the world in a whole new way. This has been really good connecting with you here. Is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners with here before we close?
Oh man, I would just thank you for that. I would just reiterate, like, if there's a thing, if there's something that interests you, like crystals are sort of like the easy one for folks stepping into those doors. Like, which one do I get? Which like, and reading all the little cards, like, I want to pick the right crystal for the right reason. Oh man, just like get one that you like. Right. And if it's the crystal and you're like, I don't do crystals, cool. But what is that other thing that is sort of scratching at a curiosity? Is it the yoga? Is it the Reiki? Is it the animals? Is it the going to a psychic fair? Is it like, what is it? Like, just step into it, start to explore it. There's so many tools. It doesn't matter how you get to where you're going to go. What matters is you're going to get to where you're going to go. And there's no get there. There's a path to it. And that path sort of never ends. So whatever that first thing is to get you on the path, and then go from there, that curiosity, go with that instinct of curiosity. Go find that.
That's wonderful. That's excellent advice. I hope everybody really follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell says. It should be interesting. It should be fun, and just keep following those clues, keep following those synchronicities. Thank you so much, Nick. It's been such a joy to get to connect with you. I hope we get to keep in touch and keep these conversations going. So thank you so much. And everybody, we'll see you again next time. Joy to you.
If you're interested in booking a reading with Mick, you can use the code PALEHORSE to receive 15% off. Just use the link below in the show notes.